Hello, dear Sangha. Have a few announcements. First, we just hosted the 20th Annual Outstanding Women in Buddhism Awards via Zoom on March 8th, and it was beautiful. If you didn't get a chance to see that, you can go to our YouTube channel and view it there. We'll be transitioning to some new and exciting communication tools. Stay tuned for more information and updates as we move forward. We still have our novena each Thursday, and it starts between 5:45 p.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern time, so you can still tune in if you would like to. Those are also saved on our YouTube channel if you want to view later. And we're also still taking prayer requests at prayer@heartwoodrefuge.org. Thank you so much. We received so much dana and donations from y'all, and we appreciate that. There's still several ways that you can give. You can go to our Heartwood page, go to the giving tab to check out the places and ways that you can still donate and give to Heartwood. And lastly, please continue to like, follow, share, tell your friends, tell your parents, tell the random people you see at the stores about Heartwood so we can continue to spread the Dharma. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So by next week, we're gonna have whatever needs to happen with our lighting in here, so it doesn't look like we're sitting in the dark gray. Whatever that takes. So we had a wonderful class with Master Dr. Zuma this morning. I think it was about, 2.5 hours, something, something like that. And it was delightful for me because many times in the past when Buddha Master has asked me to do something, like I don't know about that, because I have my own ideas about what I want to do or whatever. To everything there's a beginning and to everything there's an end. And until one is firm and fixed, it is difficult to both rely upon and be relied upon. To rely upon another and be relied upon by another. And many of the things over the last decade that he, Buddha Master doesn't suggest, he just says, and then he just leaves you to do it or not do it, totally unattached. If you do it, fine. If you don't do it, fine. If you don't trust his judgment, he has no problems with that. He just tell you what you should be doing and you decide whether to do it or not. And I like that way because he's never put pressure on me to conform with whatever his suggestion was. But when one comes into the place themselves that the suggestion is also their heart's desire, then one can move quickly. And so the last time I was there, we were all there for I think a week, or something like that, or close to a week. And then we had an early flight, I think around 6 a.m. or something like that. And we were all going to the airport, right? And then my phone rings, thank you. My phone rings, and I'm like, I'm not answering that because I know that's Buddha Master saying, come back. And I was ready to, come back to Hartwood. And the phone rang, and I said, and then I answered the phone, and it's Zazie. And Master said, oh, Buddha Master wants you to come back. He wants to talk to you now. But we've been there for 5 days, right? And I'm like, oh. And so I go back. So I go back with this kind of feeling like, on one hand, I really want to go back because, if there's a special message for you, you sure want to get it, just being honest. And then the other side is like, but you don't want a special message because that means there's something being asked of you or required of you that you may or may not want to give, so I'm stuck in some kind of limbo, but I go back. And so I was supposed to see him that afternoon, and I get a call that says, oh, he can't see you right now, maybe this evening. And I'm like, I'm trying to catch a flight out because I'll just pay a fee to change my flight. I don't have those in exchange anytime tickets. I have the cheap tickets, and there's only certain things you can do. Otherwise, you have to buy a whole new ticket. So I'm just thinking in these kinds of ways, it's like you got to watch as well as pray. So I'm thinking, okay, I want to meet with him, but we need to do it within this time frame because otherwise my ticket will cost more. So that's the price I'm putting on this. I'm just setting this up. That's how we put our value on things. Even the things that we say that we cherish above all others. So when people tell me they cherish this Dharma above all others and give it 15 minutes a week, like I know, right? And so he's putting me to the test. Then that evening we go and sit for 2 hours. And they say, he's tired now, come back. Like I'm gonna get on a plane and come home. But I go back. Next thing we get a call in the morning that says, come. And then it says, just be ready. So we stand ready, and ready means you don't go anywhere, you don't do anything, you just stay like ready, ready. I'm like, after some hours, like I'm hungry. So I say to Master Zazi, I'm going to McDonald's. And she said, well, we have to be ready when he calls. I said, well, if he calls while I'm going to McDonald's, which is 4 blocks away, call me on my phone. And but don't you know, sure enough, as soon as I get to McDonald's, there's the call. And we have to be there in 5 minutes. So I have to turn around and rush back. And we go in to see him. And then he gave us an audience, and he shared some words with us about what he saw as the future. And as I got on the plane and came back home, and I was contemplating, I was like, they just don't understand. They don't understand that I'm all the way on the East Coast, all the way across the country, almost as far as you can go from coast to coast. They don't understand that we have a Dharma center and that there are things that we do. They don't understand that our Sangha, they're not, although I am a disciple of Buddha Master, they are not disciples of Buddha Master. They don't understand. And I went through my whole tick list of what Buddha Master didn't understand, and I just kept on with my way. But then one day something happens and something drops into you. Just because of your perseverance, because of your endurance, because of your keeping the faith as you understand it, because of your tenacity, taking care of what is in your hand. There's a scripture in the Bible that talks about, taking care of the little that you've been given, and then more will be given to you. But sometimes we want to skip over the little. Give me the big job. Give me the out in front job. Give me but it says, no, take care of the little thing that you've been, do well with that. And when you've done well with that, then even more will be given to you. And more doesn't necessarily mean more, bigger, larger in the ways that we think in a worldly sense, but something that is of more value, something that will have a greater results, something like that. And so it's this way, step by step, one comes into the highest destiny that they can enter. And we do that through experience, through really knowing one's own mind. So on one hand, accepting where one's mind is, and at the same time, leaving the opening for something. The Buddha would get questions from his disciples all the time about this or about that. And he answered many times, it may be, O monk. He didn't always give them the answer. Either he knew they weren't ready for the answer, or they needed the growth of figuring out the answer to their own question. So every question doesn't need an answer. And every request does not have to be acted on just because the request was made. And so there is a growth that comes for us as we develop and move forward in the Dharma, that we learn to apply the right medicine at the right time for the right person in the right way. And usually the one who is sick doesn't really see or cannot fully understand necessarily the prescription. But yet continuing to have faith in the doctor, continuing to go, something transmits and something shifts in the patient where they can begin to receive the medicine. I have good medicine right now for diabetes. But if I had been paying attention to the doctor all along the line when the diabetes was just like a diagnosis on a piece of paper, because I didn't feel anything. I'm like, well, it can't be that bad because I don't feel anything. You know, it can't be that bad because I don't have these signs. It can't be that bad. But when your pancreas shuts down, it shuts down. And you go from this to this. And then suddenly you do feel something. Oh, but it's too late then, you know. And so in these kinds of ways, this is what I mean by all worldly Dharma is Buddha Dharma. We don't have to look far. We don't have to like go into this great intellectual crunch to understand things. If we have the capacity to just reflect on the natural things that happen in our lives, all the wisdom is laid out in front of us for how to sort out our issues, how to sort out our problems, how to see what is required in the moment, and to really know oneself, whether one's willing to give that or not. Now, I don't know how this dovetails into my talk for today, but maybe somebody needed to hear that, because I really want to talk about something else. Or maybe I can see too how maybe a little bit it dovetails. What I wanted to talk about is this whole notion of being in the present moment. As if that's all that is necessary, that's all that's required. Be here now, you know. Being in the present moment, watching thoughts arise and abide and depart. And yes, we can do that. But you see, if you cut that out and make that the prescription for how to gain enlightenment, my friend, you will stay in the dark, because it takes more than just being in the present moment. You know, observing the mind in the present moment is good, but those who focus on being in the present for its own sake are simply setting themselves up to suffer more. You see, because mindfulness is attached to the notion or the concept of remembering. It's just that sometimes we are remembering the wrong thing, you know, and so because we generally in remembering go to our negatives, we think when we come into a dharmic practice that remembering is tied to our negativities, but the Buddha tells us exactly what to remember, what to bring to the forefront of one's mind, that kind of mindfulness. So he says that in the moment when the mind, let's say, you know, these distracting, we call them, superfluous thoughts arise, they are arising in the present moment, but can't you see they're not just appearing in the present moment, that there's a basis for them to arise? So if some negative thoughts about a person arise in your mind, there had to be a basis for the negative thought to arise. That's what I'm saying. So actually, whatever thoughts arise in the present moment actually have a life before they actually arise. They didn't like just suddenly come into being. They've been under construction all the time. Otherwise, if you think of, say, a negative thought like the house didn't like just plop out, you know. It had to be constructed, it had to be built. And so there are karmic seeds that cause the arising of these indiscriminate, almost appearing to be spontaneous thoughts. They are not spontaneous, indiscriminate, nor not attached to your karma. They're very much inextricably tied to your karma. And so we have to remember something in the present moment. Actually, if we're thinking about the past, if we're thinking about the future, when are we thinking about it? We're thinking about it now in the present moment. So the past, present, and future are all contained right here in the present moment. But if we're not careful, we will dichotomize, cut out, and separate the present moment, and the Dharma cannot have this effectual work in our lives. So it's the reason why we cannot really calm and still the mind. And it's the reason why our actions don't measure up to how Dharma speak. is no reason for us after 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of practicing the Dharma have to take courses on anti-racism. I mean, there's no reason if one is actually practicing the Dharma rightly. So we should not have to talk about compassion and caring for another like you care for yourself if one has been actually practicing the Dharma rightly. There's the Buddha gave an analogy like the present moment is like a house that's constantly needing repair. Anybody that lives here understands that. Fix or repair daily. But it's not just that. He also likened it to a house that's on fire in the flames of suffering. And so, practice is not meant to keep us in the house, but it's to find a way out. So if our Dharma practice is not leading us to a way out, then it's not, I guess you could say it's not right practice. It might be a practice, but it's not the practice that the Buddha prescribed for taking us out of the burning house of samsara. The Buddha classified himself, there were many different groups, and he was a sannyasa, and they were like wanderers, and they lived in the forest, pursuing their spiritual goals. But there were many different groups there. And he classified himself as a karma bodhin. A karma is action, bodhin, one who teaches, one who practices, So it's karma bodhin is one who teaches action. And he distinguished himself from other contemporary teachers in his day who taught that action was inconsequential. He himself abandoned the very painful ascetic practices, and he simply said to them, those who were like beating themselves with whips, standing on one leg, doing all these things to deny the body and to endure pain as a way of releasing negative karma. And he said, don't you know, haven't you discovered that when you stop whipping yourself, the pain stops? So it can't be just that, and he began to give, because he'd done all of those practices, also trying to find some kind of peace and liberation. And so he went to show them how doing those things didn't take care of the matter. Cloistering and locking ourselves away, to penetrate reality and come out the same, if not worse than when we went in, having no conscience about things, no care or concern for anybody else, just whatever feels good to me, what I want, what I need. And so he says that there's something wrong with the practice. The right actions are not there, and they're not based, they're not resting on the right foundation. So if we build a house on sand, then when the waves come in and out and it rolls of sand, the house falls. And the Bible says, and great is the fall of it. But when we build it on a sure foundation, even though the waves of life and the winds of life can beat upon it, it does not collapse. And the proof of its value and its virtue becomes manifest for all the world to see. So some people have a way of talking, saying things, saying catchy things, looking pious, all of that. But if it does not translate into really relieving the suffering of others, caring about those in this world, then you really missed the boat. The class that we taught today, that Master read today, really pointed to that, because we have a way of meditating in the Theravada. We sit here to still our minds and to, drop into this, move away, this no place. But but in the Mahamudra of liberation, I think I shared with you once before that in Theravada, when we talk about the Dharma, we talk about, the written, the discourses and the teachings of the Buddha. But in the Mahayana, when they talk about the Dharma, they talk about actually practicing the teachings that's written in the book. So every meditation is a kind of or a type of practice, so they are fruitful in practicing in the world as they're encountering situations and people, like in Sutta number 8 in Majjhima Nikaya, but also on the pillow, not just having a pleasant abiding without having gone through the necessary steps of really realizing and experiencing the suffering of the world. So they're not just quoting, oh, may everybody be happy and well and peaceful and at ease. May, you not suffer, may you not, and then just go on la 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 with their normal day and the ways they do things and being happy. No, they really sit there with it until they're actually in contact with, embodying, experiencing, feeling the pain and the suffering of the world, because only then does it become a real thing to you. And that's the reason why we have the situations of inequity that we have in the world, even among spiritual practitioners and those who claim they know and they see, because they have never allowed themselves to truly be touched by it, just speak of it. And so he says that our practice has to be more than that if it's going to be anything at all. So now the Kamabodhans of that day, the teachers of action, generally had, two lines of thought. One was that mental action mattered, but not so much how it got walked out, not so much the physical action or the physical consequence of the mental action, and we see that a lot with practitioners today. We say something, but it doesn't drop much past the eyes. It doesn't translate into doing what is hard to do, giving what is hard to give. There's not that much. The efforting is all about mentally assenting to something that eases my mind. It's not so much about truly making the world a better place. It's about making my space a better place. And so it says, well, I had good intentions. I meant well, but meaning well and doing well are two different things. So I have to go beyond just meaning to do well and actually do well. The other group felt that actions, I was in the 60s, I was a part of I was a disciple of Che Guevara, and he said, only the most drastic actions matter. And that's how I felt. That's why I understand young people today when they're feeling like only the most drastic actions matter. What do we want? We want change. When we want it right now. So I understand that stage, and I understand that mindset, that thinking only the most drastic actions matter. And that's how we're going to bring change. But drastic actions are seeds that perpetuate drastic actions. And that means that when one goes by and seizes something by force, the one that thing has been torn from, plots and plans until they can go back and seize it back by force. And so you see this push and this pull, this tug going on in our society today about those who feel wronged. You robbed me, you beat me, you disrespected me. And he says that enmity will never be appeased in this way. And so everybody's having to decide whether I'll be on this side, whether I'll be on this side. But he points us to a more excellent way. So when we understand that the present moment is not constructed as a whole, but it is being constructed as the thoughts come, but they have their base or their landing or their foundation in the karmic seeds, then we know better how to uproot the thoughts that are harmful and how to foster and encourage the thoughts that are helpful. That's why he speaks of these 4 efforts that we have to activate to keep unwholesome, unarisen states from arising, and to keep wholesome arisen states from departing, and to foster unarisen wholesome states, and to uproot arisen unwholesome states. Yeah. Because those states that manifest have their roots in our karmic seeds. And if we forget this or we don't consider it, then we think, oh, it's just a thought arising. What does it have to do with me? And we let them come, we see them, we don't touch them, they abide, and then they leave. But they continually come again because there is an action that is required to be taken in the present moment. It's not like no action. Otherwise, he wouldn't introduce the 4 right efforts. He wouldn't introduce all the training guidelines. I mean, rules are not for the sake of rules. I mean, some people think they are. You know, as far as it goes, as that's the rule, and I keep the rule. But it's about understanding the reasoning for that kind of training that uproots the, causes the unwholesome karmic seeds to rise up into plants that can be pulled up like weeds out of the fodder of the mind. And if we don't really get this, if we don't really turn our practice in that direction, as Planet Deeper says, you might as well stay home and eat popcorn and chew bubblegum. This is a serious thing. I mean, if you're going to give your life to something, give it. If you're going to embark upon a journey, don't take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. If there's going to be, and one is seeking a transformation, let it be a true inner one, not like a look-like right, look like good, look like holy. So we often ask the question, what are you looking for and why? Are you here? When I say here, I don't mean in Hartwood. I mean, why have you stepped on to this path? How are you honoring the fact that out of so many eons of rolling around in samsara, the merit has been obtained for you to even hear the Dharma? So one should know then that one possesses the quality to embark upon the way leading up, because he said unless one had that merit and those qualities, they wouldn't even be able to encounter the Dharma. So even though one may feel like a wretch undone, on the other side of that, one can know that now is the time. I do have the opportunity to awaken, perhaps in this very life. But if not, to be more on a path towards awakening so that my troubles will end soon. This life, the next life, 7 more lifetimes, not an incalculable number. And so there's certain things that we have to begin to do. And of course it is training. Training means that it's not your natural propensity to do it, not as one understands oneself, covered with hindrances and obstacles and fettered to low-level thinking, captured by ignorance and greed and lust. And he says that when one sees that they are captured by these things, only then will they begin to look for a way of escape. But if one thinks, I'm all right, then one will never look. So he says we shouldn't get too complacent and too proud of ourselves and thinking that we are such good practitioners, but should always keep that humble mind because we have untold filth to unearth. And we know that by the thoughts that continually arise. No matter how much we practice, no matter how long we meditate, no matter how much we pray, no matter how many suttas we read, every day it's something else coming up every day. And that should be our clue how deep we have to dig. So we should not be too proud of ourselves. We should not be too cocky. We should not be too sure. When one knows that one is cultivating, truly cultivating a mind of harmlessness and can walk it out, then one knows that one is truly on the path leading upward. So what I wanted to encourage you to do today is maybe back up a little bit from this notion of being in the present and really reflect upon how whatever is arising in the present is resting upon a karmic seed, and what karmic seed that is. And then figuring out what to do in this present moment to uproot, to pull out, or to neutralize that karmic seed that you recognize. If you ask for truth, if you're seeking truth, she will find you. And for some, this may be a scary thing because we're used to ducking and dodging, bobbing, weaving, hiding, projecting, all of these things. This is the way we survive. It's our survival mechanism. But his question to us is, how's that been working for you? Still suffering after all these years. And it's exciting because he offers us an immediate way out if we were smart enough to take it. If we know that we come to the end of ourselves. I think I'm singing too much because songs constantly cropping up. We come to the end of the road. Yeah, but when one knows within oneself that they're coming to the end of their road, when there is a weariness with this self-proclaimed identity, when there's a true sorrow that arises, when thoughts of harm or deceit hatred rise up in us. When sorrow comes and we look and say, what is the root of this sorrow? What have I not apprehended? Instead of saying, well, everybody, needs to grieve. He said the only thing you should grieve is grieve not coming out of grieving. For the one who wants to be awake. Press in, put forth this effort in this way, and surrender our makeshift building. We don't have to make this up. We don't have to come up with our own way. The only reason we come up with our own ways and our own views is because what we're doing is not working. But he said, if you take the whole counsel, it will work. It's like a alphabet soup. You can't pick out all the O's. I just want the O's. I just want the A's. I just like the milk. I would like to see the Dharma radiant and shining in all of its glory, manifesting in us, the practitioners, the cultivators of that, shining like a beacon for all the world to see. But we have to get real. We have to get honest with ourselves. And he says that you don't have to be concerned, because as you walk along this path, step by step, every step produces an experience. So that one has the intuition, the inner knowing it from the inside, not just the tuition. It starts maybe with tuition. Sometimes it starts with an intuition that we can't understand, and we ask out here, what is this? What is that? Why is this? Why is that? And someone else further along the path explains that to us. Oh, now I get it. So sometimes it starts with the experience, and we need help unpacking it. Sometimes it starts with just learning, hearing something, and having to ponder it. But pondering it is not enough. We have to actually embark upon the pithy sayings. We have to actually do them. When it rubs against our present nature, then we find out that we are not that. We say we're not like that, but it's more than being like that. You're all whatever you do. You know a baker because he bakes. You know a builder because he builds. So although we use the words baker, builder, there is something, a definitive action is the real thing. So we are known not by our words, but we are known by our actions. What if we really believed that? We don't believe that. That's why we just like boldly and, just with bravado and no conscience do whatever we're going to do. Because we think we can fool people by our words, or by our look, by our gait, the way we walk, or by the way we sit. But as people begin to awaken, there's an inner light that casts upon their surroundings, and they can see the dirt even in the crevices. By virtue of one's own light, not an artificial light, not a light from the outside, but that which brightens from within, that shines and lights your own way. That's how you'll know when there is danger. Not because somebody said, danger, danger, or how you won't be fooled when somebody says, have no fear, don't be afraid. Because you have your own light. You can see and you can know. First, your own mind, and then the minds of others. It's no trick. And it's not just babble and vain words. It is real and it is life. And we've been invited. You know, we have it all backwards. We're like the zombies moving around in another world, in death and darkness. And he's giving us an invitation to walk in the light, to come out of the nether regions, to step out of the darkness and to drop off the chains that bind us. If one understands the invitation, who could refuse? And no one has to ask, are we having fun yet? Because you will know within yourself the strengthening, the confidence. As one steps through the muddy waters of samsara. Yes, in it. But feet never get bogged down. Get a little better, one starts to hover over the muddy waters. The mud never touching. This is the victory in life, in living, that is offered. He said that when you take all of these teachings, there's I cut an excerpt from the Majjhima Nikaya Sutta 131. And it was talking about the past and the present and the future. And it said you shouldn't chase after the past or place expectations on the future. What is past is left behind. The future is as yet unreached. So whatever quality is present, you clearly see right there, not taken in, unshaken. That's how you develop the heart. Now that sounds really good. That sounds like something like what we might be doing if you stop right there. But it goes on and it says, ardently doing what should be done today. For who knows tomorrow, death. And there's no bargaining with death and his mighty horde. So, whatever quality is present, right there, unshaken, that's how you should develop the heart. So he is talking, yes, about the present moment. But for what purpose? Just to be in the present moment? Like, not like worrying about things. Whatever you take care of, you don't have to worry about. If you don't take care of something, then worry is a natural consequence. But he says, ardently doing what should be done today. So that should be the question. What should I be doing today? What should I be doing today out of gratitude for my, not just our mother and father in this life, for the mother and father throughout eons of time. What should I be doing today for all the people that make it possible for me to be here doing this thing that I want to do right here? What should I be doing for them today? What should I be doing today? Asking the question. And don't tag on to it. What should I be doing for me today? Because it's the for me that we're always doing every day that keeps the identity, the I-ness, the I self-centeredness alive. And one can't get beyond what they think is beneficial for oneself. But to forget the self is to know the 10,000 things. To forget the self is to abide in continual joy and contentment. To forget the self. And so I encourage you today, actually that's all I was given, so that's all I can give. But just remember that karmic seeds are always ripening. And no skill or quality stands alone. That's why we have to be mindful, why we have to remember, even in the present moment, why we have to remember what other moment could we be remembering except in the present moment. And remember that even good qualities, or all qualities, I say, are joined together with other qualities to see whether they are good or not. An example that the Buddha gave was the good doctor. He often referred to himself as the great physician or the good physician, motivated by goodwill for his patients, compassionate when they're suffering, joyful when they are recovering, but equanimous in the face of disease that he can't cure, or that a person is not willing to do what they need to do to bring healing to it. So even equanimity can become something brash and detached and ugly if it's not combined with the other qualities of the path. This is how people get off, get stuck in ruts. Started off good and walked a good journey and then stumble and fall, and great is the fall of it. Because they don't keep matching up qualities against other qualities to keep the qualities wholesome and beneficial, to keep the qualities useful and positive. He speaks of patience and being patient when one is feeling pain or when someone has been hurt with words, but impatient with unskillful qualities arising in the mind. He says, crush mind with mind if you have to. So we can't just take one view, one side, but we have to know how much to apply and how much to take away in every situation, without wondering what's the benefit for me versus the other. It's coming to the purity of goodness in every moment. When one is walking the path that way, one knows they are walking the path that way. When others see and they may be confused about whether that person is or isn't. What is that to do with you? But you should know about yourself for yourself. And if we would put our energies and our effort to our practice in this way, we would have great results, and our happiness and our contentment will grow exponentially. May you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you and no danger. May you be able to meet the inevitable difficulties of this life. Oh, you can